Joining us, Hofstra University law professor James Sample, who focuses on constitutional law and democracy, host of the Independent Americans podcast, and founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America, Paul Rieckhoff, and MS Now senior political analyst, host of Runaway Country on Crooked, and author of the brand new book, The Steal: Four Right-Wing Hardliners, One Republican Presidency, and the Raid on America's Courts. Alex Wagner. Alex, congrats on the new book. I really don't know how you do it. Congrats.
Thank you.
What do you think of this fund and who it's intended to pay out?
I have a lot of things that I think about this fund, Katie. First of all, I have a genuine question about whether it's legal, right? Congress has power of the purse. These are taxpayer funds. These should be dispersed through the legislative process. The idea that Trump can unilaterally appoint a commission that in shadow can pay out his allies seems decidedly unconstitutional. We've seen some lawsuits. We're sure to see more lawsuits. I don't think the Senate is done with this. I feel like there's some real noise making, even in Republican circles, about the legality of this and whether there's not going to be more of a lasso on Trump and Blanche and whoever else is involved. But honestly, one of the biggest questions I have is why now? And when I think about the answer to that question, it gives me shivers because, Trump likes paying people out he likes having people on the payroll, right? And that's certainly what's happening here. But we are barreling toward a midterm election where it looks very much, at least at this stage of the game, like Republicans could have serious losses and lose one or both houses of Congress, which would be not great for Donald Trump. And at this precise moment, he is establishing a slush fund to pay out his most violent election deniers who are unafraid to break the law in support of Donald Trump and in an effort to hand him or his allies an election. You do have to ask yourself the question, what is the end game here beyond, paying out potential January 6ers? Trump is saying very clearly, people who are my allies and who do the dirtiest work for me will be both pardoned and paid out. And that's a problem.
He's saying it in so many words, but there's also just the implication, what he's implying. Remember Michael Cohen, when he was testifying before Congress, talked about how Donald Trump operates. You don't need to tell anyone what to do if you're Donald Trump, Michael Cohen said, because everybody knew what Donald Trump wants. He compared him to a mob boss in that same way. So is that what you're worried about here, that everybody knows what Donald Trump wants? He wants to win elections. He wants to stay in power. Maybe he wants Republicans to win elections. And to service him on that, they then also know what they should be doing, maybe not certify results of elections, maybe stop the vote count, worse, get violent at the Capitol like they did 6 years ago?
Well, I think what they want is just enough chaos to throw the results of some of the tighter races, to the extent there are tight races, into question. I mean, the Trump and MAGA thrive on chaos, and they thrive on uncertainty, and they seek to create chaos and uncertainty. And it's not to say that, you'd have to shut down voter lines in Fulton County. It's just that you need to create enough chaos that you can make the argument that those votes need to be recast or recounted or thrown out, and do that in enough places that it throws into question who gets the gavel in January. I'm not saying that this is certain to come to fruition, but I do think we have to ask ourselves, independent of the thumbing his nose at the separation of powers, the legislative branch, and the appropriations process, why is Trump doing this? Why did he make a deal with the DOJ to set aside $1.8 billion for the people who have done the most violent anti-democratic things in the last, decade? It begs the question, why now and to what end?
Well, let's look at the past to inform the future, and we'll separate two things out. We'll separate the violence on January 6th and what happened at various poll centers and post-election results in 2020. Donald Trump wanted people to not certify the results. There were instances where he wanted the votes to stop. He was thinking about sending in the military. Does this incentivize, in your opinion, James, people to try to do those same things again? And if they did try, what should we be watching for? What could happen?
Yeah, I think it absolutely incentivizes that kind of thing to happen again. And I think it's worth remembering, we think of January 6th as a singular day, but January 6th was the culmination of a multi-month process of stop the steal, right? January 6th was the linchpin of the plan after all of the other plans fell through, right? After they filed 60 federal lawsuits and they discovered that there's no evidence that the election had been stolen in any meaningful way whatsoever, then January 6th. So, yes, this incentivizes it because, I mean, it's a reward, right? We're simple creatures, human beings. Punishment versus reward. This is a reward for the wrongs, not that were done to people, but for which they did themselves and were convicted in many cases and pled guilty in others.
I mean, look at who's applying already. You have Mike Lindell. I mean, there are others. There are other January 6ers that are applying. But Mike Lindell, Enrique Tarrio, these are people that now are looking at this fund and saying, hey, listen, what I did on that day or in the lead up to that day, completely fine. Donald Trump wanted me to do it. I'm vindicated. And now I could get millions of dollars from the federal government. Lindell says he lost $400 million. Enrique Tarrio wants $2 to $5 million. Again, this is taxpayer money.
I think they're trying to do two things. They're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to erase January 6th and rewrite the way the entire thing is framed for the history books and for the country. And they're trying to repeat history. They want to incentivize people to do the same thing in advance of the elections this fall. And I think that's the right thing to focus on because that's the circuit breaker. That's the whole ball game. And he's made it very clear that he wants to disrupt the elections. He has no intent of having free and fair elections. And this incentivizes anybody who's thinking about doing something violent against the government. Go ahead and do it. Trump will have your back. If you stand with Trump against his government, he'll have your back. It's a green light. And I think it's maybe the most important thing for us to focus on because the Democrats assume there will be free and fair elections. I don't assume that. I think it's the thing we have to focus on because it's the most immediate circuit breaker in slowing him down and stopping him from doing much worse.
So, Alex, I mean, if you're looking at this and trying to figure out what happens next, is this Donald Trump seeing the writing on the wall? If he's doing it right now, seeing the writing on the wall for the midterms, it's not going well. It doesn't appear that they're making any effort to sway voters to vote for Republicans again, not on the economy, not on foreign wars, not on corruption, not on Epstein, nothing really that his voters had said that they were most concerned about. So is this Donald Trump saying the end is near and what's he going to do next?
Well, I mean, I guess this is his version of like storing up canned food, like for the apocalypse, which is just amassing a private militia that will break the law for him. I mean, I was outside the jail on inauguration night when a lot of these inmates, some of them convicts, were freed. And one of them told me, I'll never forget it. He said, I would do anything for that man, I would die for that man. And that was just when family members were getting pardoned, sentences commuted. Now there's a multi-million-dollar payout that could be the carrot at the end of the stick. So I think the incentive structure is very much in place. To your question about, is this Trump seeing the writing on the wall? Katie, the only reason he was reelected was to tackle the issue of affordability. And he has not only not tackled it, he's done everything you could do to ensure elevated gas costs, elevated fuel costs, elevated food costs, between the tariffs, the war, doing nothing about Obamacare premiums, rising healthcare costs. I mean, literally, it's as if he's doing he is taking steps that have exacerbated the problem. He's done nothing he's not even made a gesture towards combating it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's indicative of someone who, and he's admitted this himself, doesn't care about the plight of American families and also doesn't really care about the GOP. None of this is good for his party. He'd just rather make an end run around the democratic system and sow chaos and uncertainty about the election results. I mean, I think this is the only strategy he has.